Wow, oh wow, oh wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Orchid, what just happened? Well, there might be a little bit more to this than what you actually know, which I just actually found out just a little bit ago. So I want to update you guys primarily what's going on with Orchid, just so you guys know. If you do hear any voices in the background, there are some guests that are over. I still needed to get this video recorded, so hopefully you don't hear too much in the background. But we're going to talk about Orchid, what the news information is on that, as well as we'll take a look at Bitcoin and giving you a little bit of an update on that as well. So let's actually go ahead and just start with the Bitcoin, and then we can finish everything off nice and smooth and seamless with the Orchid information here. One of the articles that was just posted is a Bitcoin death spiral imminent following yesterday's massive difficulty adjustment. And this did have what looks to be a big impact on Bitcoin itself as well. So Bitcoin experienced two massive mining difficulty adjustments recently. Is this something to be concerned about? Take into consideration that when you are trying to mine Bitcoin, that the more miners that come into play, the better the processors are. Every 2 weeks, the difficulty adjustment moves either harder or easier to make it more beneficial to the actual miners or to the system itself. So if more miners come in, they got better processors, it says, hey, they're getting these Bitcoin too fast. We need to adjust it to make it more difficult. But the good news is that when the hash rate goes up, that increases the security behind Bitcoin. So this is actually good news for the security of Bitcoin and against to people that are trying to manipulate the system, which is already really difficult, but it just got even harder. But because of that, if it's harder for you to get Bitcoin as a miner, you're also going to have to probably sell off some because you're not making as much and you got to pay for your expenses, your new equipment, you got to pay your electric bill, all that other stuff. Employees, if you happen to have that. And yeah, so before the recent halving, many were prophesizing a so-called death spiral for Bitcoin. This theory hinges on the idea that the halving of the block reward leads to an exodus of miners due to the sudden unprofitability of mining activities. As a result, the network hash rate decreases and the block time increases, meaning that miner revenue further diminishes, pushing more miners off the network. This loop would then allegedly continue until there is no one left to mine Bitcoin. On September 20th, which was yesterday, Bitcoin experienced one of the biggest upward mining difficulty adjustments in its history. In fact, it is the second major upward adjustment since the halving, so were the doomsday prophets right all along? It's a really quick little article here. In order to answer this question, we have to understand what triggers difficulty adjustments. All Bitcoin miners compete to solve the next block. The more hash power the network enjoys, the faster that can happen in order to make the generation rate remains at an interval of 10 minutes per block. Satoshi Nakamoto embedded a feature into the protocol that adjusts the difficulty approximately every 2 weeks. If during this period the time between block falls below that mark, the difficulty adjusts upward. As I said, if the time between blocks rises above that number, the opposite occurs. These two recent adjustments came as a result of an immense increase in hash power. Thus, instead of supporting the death spiral scenario, it would appear to indicate the excellent health of the Bitcoin network. As you guys can see from this little display right here, as we go across through time, the mean hash rate has steadily increased for Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin's mean block interval has also shown a bit of a decrease as of recent. Over here, mining difficulty, you can see it also increasing right there. The price in dollars of Bitcoin in comparison to the mining difficulty, and they've essentially met at this little key point right now. Very interesting article in my opinion. When you take a look at Bitcoin itself, you can see that it had dropped down quite a bit, which I did not mean to do that right there. Love my Fibonacci retracements. Quick side note, by the way, guys, I am not a financial advisor. Anything that I'm saying is for entertainment purposes. If you guys are returning viewers, it's great to see you guys again. If anybody is new to the channel, just so you know, we are trying to grow this channel. And if you do like this content, you want to come back, you feel like there's more information you could get out of all of this, please make sure that you hit subscribe. I put a little goal up this time in comparison to previous videos, just because we are progressively trying to work our way to growing this community space. I love to see the comments that you guys say down below and engaging in the conversation. I'm sure other people scroll down and will look and read what you guys say too. So it's not necessarily always about whether I see it, which I do see it. I may not respond to it, but I do see these comments. And it's furthermore about other people seeing what your thoughts and opinions are. So it's kind of a big community-based project. Anyways, so now we take a look over at Bitcoin right here, and you can see that if we do a Fibonacci retracement based on the levels it had set before, then what is really nice is that this little bounce off that occurred was right on the 0.236 level at $10,200 essentially. Just passed a little bit behind that, but then pushed right back up, and that was actually forming on our formation here of this large baseline, right? Essentially all these other points were just about right there. You saw the previous day that happened was September 8th. So this support is holding pretty strong as far as a continuation goes. If that does continue on, well, then that means that we will continue to form new higher lows. As it is right now, based on the Fibonacci retracement, we are below the 21 EMA, and we are also between the 0.382 and the 0.5. So this has room to grow to try and recover from the previous day. Potentially, we could see it trying to test breaking above $10,600 again. And if it does have a continuation down, I would be looking at the level of resistance right here, first off, about 10,230, and then potentially pushing back down to that bottom around 10,179. If it breaks below that, then obviously keeping an eye on the 10K, breaking below 10K, then would be that CME futures gap, which still hasn't been filled. A lot of people speculate that it will be filled. That's right around $9,600. You can actually look back here that it was almost on the verge of breaking into that region, but it just stopped just above it. Didn't actually really go into it. It was essentially right on that outer edge of the CME gap, kind of like a fake out. And that was right around the $9,800 range. So if it pushes all the way down, it might be another room to try and accumulate. If you're not too worried about a couple $100s, you may want to take into consideration what had happened previously here and setting it just right around in that range. This was a little bit higher than that one. Me personally, if it starts dropping down, I don't know if I'm going to keep mine at the $9,600 range, which I already have a buy order ready to go. I might actually set it just a little bit higher, sacrificing that couple $100, because when this thing finally does start to take off again, it's going to be huge, and seeing numbers below $10,000, as we've seen with its actual long-term historical perspective, it's getting to that point where, like, you should feel really lucky if it's below $10,000, because it's way more likely that it's going to never come down below $10,000 again than it will. Circumstances change, new things come up. Is it possible? Yes, but when you look at it from a long-term perspective, what the trend says is that there's higher probability of it continuously going to new higher lows. See? So keep an eye on that. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Orchid. So what happened with Orchid? Well, number one was that it went on Binance. I know a lot of you guys left it in the comments after I posted my video yesterday. The news actually came out after I'd already posted my video and I recorded it. So this was really exciting. And this information shows that Orchid is now on Binance. And Binance has roughly 6 times more the transaction volume that you see in comparison to Coinbase. Think about that. Coinbase was a very dominant figure with the trading volume that you saw for Orchid, but now you've got essentially 6 times more on top of what you have already established, right? 6 times more the potential for demand and trading experiences. And you look at Binance, you look at its market cap, you look at what it's actually designed for. There's so many promising things behind it. I believe in this project. It's a personal opinion of my own. I'm not being paid by this company. I just own a lot of Orchid, and I think that it's going to do really well. And I think it's going to do really well. That's why I bought a lot. But, you know, everyone has their own opinion. If you guys disagree with me, that's all on you. We're going to take a look at the charts and see with where it's at right now and what is likely to happen based on the TA. A lot of the TA recently, I've been very bearish. I've been thinking the price is going to continue further down. So I want it to do amazing. But I noticed that some other people tend to be a little bit too, how do you say it? I'm sure you guys watch some of these other crypto YouTubers. It's like, oh, to the moon, explosions, it's going to happen, it's imminent, it's all this, and it's just super, super hype. And yes, search and discoverability is obviously important with hype, but I'm hoping that you guys are liking the fact that I'm trying to keep it a little bit more grounded, a little bit more realistic, and looking what's at here, making it clear that it could go either way. We're looking at what probability it is more likely to do, and then you can try and prepare yourselves for either instance. So looking also, aside from the fact that it went onto Binance, we also have this information here. Orchid launches a second chainlink Oracle live on mainnet to better determine network pricing. Chainlink. My dudes, you know how many people I've seen on like social media and stuff talking about, like saying, oh, you watch Chainlink, you see how well it's doing? Look at Oracle. Look at how much potential this product has. For those of you guys that don't know, the big thing that's kind of the takeaway with Orchid is it's in the VPN space predominantly. It has potential to go into other markets, as we found out recently in an AMA, which I did in a previous video if you want to check out that video. And essentially, you've got a whole bunch of different VPNs and you want to have security, right? Well, Orchid can work on a case-by-case situation. You don't have to pay for monthly subscription fees. You don't have to pay for a yearly subscription fee. You don't have to be stuck into just one VPN. It uses what's called hops, and it goes from one to another to another to another. The nodes are actually enhanced and strengthened by the people that stake a lot of the Orchid on the system. That's right. You can actually stake Orchid with this, which is even more exciting because there's a 3-month withdrawal period if you wish to unstake it. And I saw the same basic idea previously on a live streaming platform that I used to be on. And that project, the 3 months unstaking period, really changed the dynamic so that the people that continued to stake it, they were reaping rewards. And anybody that's looking to try and dump price action, especially since this is on mainnet, the other thing wasn't on mainnet, but this is on mainnet, right? The more people that stake it, they can't just pull everything out, reap all their benefits of off of it, and then dump it on the exchanges. So if a lot of people start staking it, that makes it more scarce, which means that what is in circulation at the moment is going to be harder for people to acquire. And with news like this, it expands out the potential market. Expanding out the market means more demand, supply staying the same. Supply and demand, you know how this works? Price increases because a lot of people want it, but it doesn't necessarily that it means that they have the opportunity to buy it. So this to me is another step forward to really bullish information. And this came out the same day, September 21st, as the release on Binance. This team, in my personal opinion, they are very smart with how they have structured the actual design of this cryptocurrency, the industry space that it's in. You don't really see much competition in regards to like VPN. And when you think of cryptocurrency, a lot of people think of decentralization. They like the idea that they don't have one central form of government or company that can control the production of the money or the circumstance of what this is working on, right? This is built off of smart contracts on the Ethereum network, and I think it has so much promise. And they just timed this so well. I don't know if that was intentional or it was just pure luck. Also, this happened the same day as the hash rate changing for Bitcoin. I mean, if they timed all three of these things at the same time, they're really, really sitting down and doing their research. But remember, too, as other people come along, they could approach Oracle and say, hey, I've taken a look at what your application is, and I think it would be great for what we have. So instead of us having to go out and make something our own and do all the time in the research to just have the same effect of what your token can do, we could just start using your token. And so that's essentially what's going on here with Chainlink, and I'm going to talk about that right now. So the Orchid adds a new secret shopper, Oracle, for greater transparency. Picking Chainlink over its competitors was an easy decision for Waterhouse. Decentralized VPN Orchid is adding a Chainlink Oracle that, like a secret shopper, samples bandwidth pricing from all the providers in the network. Orchid co-founder Stephen Waterhouse explained the importance of this feature, stating, the basic idea is in decentralized services like Orchid, where we have a decentralized VPN, there's no way of really knowing exactly how much a provider might charge. A provider might say they're charging a certain amount. We don't really know until you try it. So we wrote some code that in a decentralized fashion shops for bandwidth on the network. I mean, look, they're really smart. They're even using the keyword decentralized. Decentralized fashion shops for bandwidth on the network. He says that in the future, this may lead to new features being added, such as the ability to track the uptime of bandwidth providers. Waterhouse also said that choosing Chainlink over other Oracleized data providers was easy, as his relationship with the project's co-founder Sergey Nazarov goes back to 2014. They worked together. These guys know each other. Or, well, maybe they didn't work together, but they know each other for 6 years. When asked whether the pandemic has had a positive impact on the demand for VPN services, Waterhouse stated that it is difficult to judge, with Orchid being a new business. Quote, I am definitely conscious of the fact that there's an overall demand for privacy services as more people are working at home, and also as people are starting to become more aware of some of the issues that are going hand in hand with potentially increased tracking and surveillance of people in global pandemics are also in terms of you can change. Waterhouse was a founding partner of Pantera Capital, one of the first crypto investment firms in the world. Regarding the recent DeFi boom, he is convinced that people are risking capital on unaudited contracts and anonymous teams and so on. He did admit that he was excited about the launch of the Uniswap's Unitoken, stating, I think that's a great team and it's good to see what can be done with a solid team behind. Chainlink has recently acquired a privacy preserving protocol, DECO, from Cornell University, which should make its data more secure. Earlier today, Binance also announced its decision to launch Orchid's native token. So how did it go with their launch? Well, it was great and kind of bad, but still mostly good. And that's what we're going to look at right now. So you guys can see here a massive price increase. We went from all the way down at 27 cents all the way up to 48 cents. A lot of people were actually hoping that it was going to go all the way to $1. In fact, if you go over here, you can take a look. I do have a Twitter account. I don't know if you guys want to check it out or not. I'm not used to doing this on my phone. This was a vote that I did yesterday. When will we see Orchid, aka OXT, hit $1 again? 68% of people, I mean, it's still got 3 hours left, but 68% of people said within 24 hours. 15.2% think before the end of this year, 6.4% think next year, and 10.4% think that we'll never hit $1 again. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you didn't vote on this, there might be a little bit of time left. You could technically still cast your vote in it, but definitely let us know in the comments down below. Looking at the chart itself here, you can see that we were right in that 0.382 range for the Fibonacci retracement. Didn't quite touch the baseline, but it had this massive explosion up, went all the way into the 0.42 range, and was almost at the halfway point up to the 1.618, but it didn't quite reach there. We started seeing a lot of retracement back. Bitcoin was dropping a ton yesterday. This is the daily chart as we just showed you guys here. So when you go on Coinbase and you look at all the different cryptocurrencies in the main section, right? Everything was red. Everything was red except Orchid. And DAI. DAI was up, but then it went back down. So like pretty much everything was in the red zone, right? We saw a massive push up. Some people might say, oh, it's a pump and dump situation. If you want my opinion, I think this is a retracement of some people taking profits, yes, but also because of the effect that happened with Bitcoin and the entire cryptocurrency space as a whole. We saw everything. We can't just pin it on the fact of saying, oh, well, Orchid was, it's this pump and dump thing. There's so much opportunity. There's so much space that could still be tapped into with this. I am very bullish on the long term for this. Looking on the short term, we are still above the 21 EMA, and you can see that on the daily, we almost touched it and essentially started to bounce off. Almost touched it. So I'm still bullish because it is above the 21 EMA. In fact, we're over the 50% range right here as far as its previous growth range from its all-time, from the previous major dip, not the all-time high, but going back to September 3rd when we had that massive drop section right there, right? We are over 50% of the way. Think of it that way. We're over 50% of the way getting back to that point, which had originated as a drop below the 21 EMA. Ideally, you want to look for 2 or 3 instances of a pattern to form whether you're doing your support or your resistance or a lot of other elements of that, right? I would also take that into consideration about such lines of once it actually passes above. So the candlestick had closed right here above yesterday, the 21 EMA. As it is today, it is currently above it. The price is going down, but until it passes below that 21 EMA, once it passes below the 21 EMA, then I would become more bearish. But the fact that it's above it at the moment, I am still bullish. Personally, I still think this has room to go, especially since we saw such a massive pullback right here. It has the opportunity, now that it's kind of breathed, to start pushing forward again, especially if we see Bitcoin starting to rally up a little bit. You do see Bitcoin is actually on a slight positive as of this exact moment right here. At 0.30. So we zoom all the way in and you can see it's just now breaking above that 0.382. So if it starts to have another rally of its own, I think we're going to see a continuation relationship with this, as I've oftentimes seen in the previous history with this. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys with that. Again, if you guys are new to the channel, we are trying to move forward. If we could smash even beyond 350, I would be so incredibly grateful. Thank you guys for all the views and all the likes and the comments that you guys have been doing. I think we're forming a great community. I would love to try and build this out further. So if you guys do subscribe, it lets me know that you do enjoy the content. You would like to see more information. I don't talk just about Orchid. I do talk about Bitcoin in every video. I also will talk sometimes about additional altcoins, either independently, but I try to, because I know a lot of you guys are like me and you're really interested in this. I try to slip even just a little bit in about Orchid. So thank you guys. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about all this. Appreciate you guys, and I will see you in the next episode.